What if the heaviest thing you carry every day isn't in your hands, but in your mind? Ethan Walker sat on the edge of his bed at 6:30 a.m., staring at the same dim light leaking through his window, feeling the same tight weight in his chest he couldn't explain, as if nothing in his life was moving forward even though time never stopped. And before his feet even touched the floor, his thoughts had already begun their endless loop, replaying awkward conversations from days ago, imagining future failures that hadn't happened, questioning every decision he had ever made, and with each passing minute, his mind grew louder, more crowded, more suffocating, like a room filling with noise he couldn't turn off. And the strange part was, nothing around him had actually changed. The same apartment, the same job, the same city stretching miles and miles outside his window. Yet inside, everything felt stuck, frozen in place, as if he was walking in circles inside his own head, chasing a way out that never appeared. And even when the world moved forward, cars passing, people talking, clocks ticking, Ethan remained trapped in the same invisible pattern, wondering quietly to himself, why does my life feel like the same day repeating over and over again? As Ethan moved through his day, the noise inside his mind never gave him a moment of rest. It followed him into the kitchen as he poured his coffee, whispering that he was already behind in life. It sat with him in traffic as red lights stretched endlessly ahead, reminding him of every opportunity he believed he had missed, and it stayed with him at his desk, where even the simplest tasks felt heavy because his thoughts kept pulling him away, one memory leading to another, one worry giving birth to 10 more, until he could not tell what was real and what was only imagined. He would open his laptop to start working, but instead find himself staring blankly, lost in a conversation that had happened days ago, replaying it over and over, wondering what he should have said differently. And then suddenly his mind would jump forward, painting pictures of failure, of rejection, of a future where nothing ever changed. And the more he tried to stop thinking, the louder it became, like trying to quiet a room by shouting over it. He began to notice a pattern. Every time he felt a small moment of peace, his mind would pull him back into the same loop, as if it refused to let him move on. And slowly, without realizing it, Ethan started to believe that this was just who he was, someone trapped in his own thoughts, someone destined to stay in the same place, repeating the same invisible cycle again and again. Over time, the weight of Ethan's thoughts began to shape the way he saw everything around him. Even small moments started to feel heavy. A simple email felt like a test he might fail. A short conversation felt like something he would later regret. And every quiet moment became an open door for his mind to pull him back into the same cycle. He stopped trusting his own decisions because every choice was followed by doubt. And every doubt led to another spiral of overthinking that left him frozen, unable to move forward. Days turned into weeks, and nothing truly changed. Not because life refused to offer him something new, but because he could not step outside the patterns in his mind long enough to see it. Opportunities passed by like cars on a highway while he stood still on the side, watching but never stepping in. And slowly, a deeper feeling settled within him, not loud or dramatic, but quiet and constant. The feeling that he was falling behind, that everyone else was moving forward, while he remained stuck in the same invisible loop, repeating the same thoughts, the same fears, the same imagined outcomes, until one evening, exhausted from carrying the same mental weight all day, Ethan found himself walking without direction, not trying to solve anything anymore, just trying to escape the noise for a moment, unaware that this quiet step away from his usual routine would lead him to something different. The streets were quiet as Ethan walked without a destination, the cool evening air brushing against his face while the noise in his mind slowly softened, not gone, but distant, like a radio turned down just enough to breathe. He passed rows of dim streetlights and empty sidewalks until he reached a small park he had never noticed before, tucked between buildings he had walked past 100 times, and there, near a narrow stream that moved gently under the fading light, sat an older man, still and calm, as if he belonged to a different rhythm of time. Ethan paused for a moment, watching him, noticing how the man did nothing yet seemed completely at ease. No phone, no distraction, no sign of urgency, just sitting and observing the water as it flowed. Something about that stillness felt unfamiliar, almost unsettling, yet strangely inviting. And without fully understanding why, Ethan found himself stepping closer, drawn not by words, but by the quiet presence of someone who seemed untouched by the kind of mental chaos he had been carrying all day. Without fully thinking, Ethan sat down a few feet away, the sound of the water moving gently over smooth stones filling the silence between them, and for a while, neither of them spoke. The man simply watched the stream as if there was nothing else he needed to do, and somehow that quiet felt different from the noise Ethan had been carrying all day. After a few minutes, Ethan let out a slow breath and said, almost to himself, "I cannot stop thinking." The man turned slightly, his expression calm, not surprised, not concerned, just present. "About what?" he asked softly. Ethan hesitated, then answered, "Everything. The past, the future, things I said, things I should have done, things that might go wrong." The man nodded gently, as if he had heard this many times before, then looked back at the water. "And these thoughts," he said slowly, "do they ever stop on their own?" Ethan shook his head. "No, they just keep going." The man smiled faintly. "Then perhaps the problem is not that they exist," he said, "but that you believe they must stay." Ethan frowned slightly, not fully understanding. Yet something in those words felt like the beginning of an answer he had been searching for without even knowing it. The man leaned forward slightly and picked up a small pebble from the ground, holding it between his fingers for a moment before gently dropping it into the stream. The water responded instantly, soft ripples spreading outward in perfect circles, expanding, fading, disappearing without effort. "Watch closely," the man said, his voice calm and steady. Ethan followed the movement of the water, noticing how the ripples did not resist, did not stay, did not fight to exist longer than they needed to. They simply appeared and then were gone. "Can you stop those ripples once they begin?" the man asked. Ethan shook his head. "No," he replied quietly. "Can you hold them in place, keep them from fading away?" Ethan looked again, then shook his head once more. "No, I cannot." The man nodded, a gentle understanding in his eyes. "Then tell me," he continued, "why do you try so hard to hold on to your thoughts, when they are no different from these ripples?" Ethan stared at the water, something shifting inside him, as if for the first time he was not trying to control what he felt, but simply watching it. And in that quiet moment, the stream seemed to reveal something his mind never could. The man let the silence settle again, allowing the sound of the water to fill the space between them. Then he spoke, not as someone giving answers, but as someone guiding a question. "When a thought appears in your mind, do you create it, or does it simply arrive?" Ethan hesitated, watching the stream. "It just appears," he said slowly. The man nodded. "And when it appears, do you have to follow it?" Ethan frowned, his eyes narrowing slightly as he considered the question. "It feels like I do," he admitted, "but maybe I do not." The man smiled gently. "Exactly," he said. "A thought is only the beginning, not a command." Ethan looked back at the water, remembering how the ripples came and went without effort. "Then why does it feel so real?" he asked. The man's voice remained calm, steady. "Because you give it your attention, you hold on to it, you build a story around it, and soon, you forget that it was only a passing ripple." Ethan felt something shift again, a quiet realization forming beneath the surface. "So, I am not stuck because of my thoughts," he said slowly. "I am stuck because I keep choosing to stay with them." The man did not answer, he only watched the water, as if the truth had already been said. The realization did not come as a loud breakthrough, but as a quiet shift, like something gently falling into place inside Ethan's mind. He looked at the stream again, watching how the water moved without resistance, how nothing tried to hold on to anything, and for the first time, he saw the difference between what was happening and what he had been doing all along. His thoughts were never the problem. They came and went just like the ripples, but he had been grabbing onto them, holding them, replaying them, building entire stories around moments that had already passed or had not even happened yet. And in doing so, he had unknowingly created the very loop he felt trapped in. Ethan took a slow breath, feeling a strange lightness, not because his thoughts had disappeared, but because he no longer felt the need to follow every single one. He watched one thought rise, a familiar worry about his future, and for the first time, He did nothing with it. He did not fight it. He did not chase it. He simply let it pass. And just like the ripples in the water, it faded on its own. And in that simple moment, Ethan understood something deeper than words, that freedom was never about controlling the mind, but about no longer being controlled by it. They sat there a while longer, the sky slowly dimming as the last light of the day faded into a calm evening glow. And for the first time in a long while, Ethan did not feel the urge to fill the silence with thoughts. He simply listened to the steady flow of the stream, feeling something inside him begin to settle, not forced, not controlled, just naturally quiet. When he finally stood up to leave, nothing around him had changed. The same park, the same city, the same life waiting for him, beyond the path. But something within him was no longer the same. As he walked home, the familiar thoughts still appeared, small worries, old memories, passing doubts. But now they felt different, lighter, like distant echoes instead of heavy chains, and each time one arose, he remembered the water, the ripples, the simple truth he had seen for himself, and instead of holding on, he let them pass, step by step, moment by moment, until the path ahead no longer felt like a loop, but something open, something moving, something alive. And as he reached his door, Ethan paused for a second, not searching for answers, not trying to fix anything, just breathing, just being, realizing quietly that peace was never something he had to find somewhere else. It was something that had always been there, waiting for him to stop holding on.